in today's class, we are going to go through a couple of really important tools, so I thought we'd spend a little bit of time just specifically on them. We're going to skip around a little bit. We are going to go with importing pictures, turning them into 3D. This is used for lithopainting. And there's the import components. This is going to import from bitmap. This is going to import from 3D model. We're going to do both regular models and STL files. As you early saw me also listed file entry into STL. Let's see here if we can get this all going. Alright, so, and then after that, depending on time, we are going to go through this awesome tool. I have about 1,000 things going on in my life right now. I'm constantly coaching my 2-year-old daughter, so not going to be a very long time. We are going to do some pretty important stuff, so hold on tight. We're going to cruise. So, first thing first, we're going to work with making lithopanes. So, lithopanes, first thing we're going to do is want to import you picture yourself a picture. The better the quality of the picture, the better the quality of the lithopane will be. I would recommend that you are about 400 by 400 or better, but in reality, if you're more like 800 by 800 or bigger, it'll be much happier detail. So once we open up our program, let's just start from the beginning. We're going to set it up. Center my lithopane. Pick your size first. Whatever the blanket that you're going to be cutting on. Your Z0 is going to be at the bottom. Usually I'm cutting it 40 out of brand comes in package thickness. And it's standard in that thickness. You can buy it. I buy it from a company called Star On. It's all the same stuff. Let's see here. From here, somebody asked me a quick question here about you can't get sound. I'm gonna have them call in and talk with Chris. All right, perfect. Let's see. So from here, now that we've got our 12 by 12, we've got our 1/2 inch thickness and our Z0s on the bottom, we're going to go ahead and just say OK. All right, from here, now we're going to go right over to our modeling. Now there's 2 ways you can do this in reality. We can import our picture right now, which is fine, but you do not have to. Instead, you go straight to modeling and go to your button here that's create a component from a bitmap. You click on it, and you go find your bitmap. In this one's case, it's this cabin. Place it wherever you want it, of course. Once you're happy with the placement of it, you've got your piece. That is the 3D view. In fact, if we click on it, that is what we're going to get. Okay. Now this is okay, and it looks all right. There's a couple things we have to do to fix it, of course. We're going to go ahead and do a tier so where we can see the 2D and the 3D. Now, if any of you guys remember the old 35mm film, this is very similar to it. We want to take this from a black and white positive image to a black and white negative image. So first things first, we just click on negative, and now we have what we're used to seeing when we play with the old negatives, and that is a picture that looks all the blacks are white, all the whites are blacks, and everything else. Okay. Reason being is we're going to put light behind it. So the light behind it is going to reverse this image that we have right now. Okay. The next thing that we want to do is we can go ahead and size it up. So go ahead and grab it. We can size it to fit. So in this one's case, with it length, my Y is a larger number, and we're doing 12 inches. Okay, we can center it up, and that is our piece. Okay, from here, we go back to our monkey wrench, and we need to change our shape height. There are 3 important rules about lithopanes. The first important rule is make it a negative, but the second is our shape height can be bigger than 5 inches. If it's bigger than that, adjust it down to 1.5. Okay, from pass. However, we do need to do our third important rule, and that is gap below the model of 0.04 inches. That one's important. Don't do it with anything else. You will find that it doesn't put enough light through it, or it's so thin that in the places that they're cut really deep, you're going to actually break it or crack it because it becomes so fragile. So about 0.04 is what we found to be pretty good. So go ahead and click on OK. We'll then go to our 3D Finish toolpath. Now we're going to then talk about tools. Now this is important because in everything when it comes to 3D carving, the bigger the diameter of the tool, the faster it will go. However, the less detail you'll have. So you have essentially two options. You may either be a fast carving with low detail or a slow carving with high detail. And all that depends upon the diameter of your bit. We're going to do it two ways. The first way we'll do it with an 1/8 inch end mill. Go ahead and calculate that out. And bring your offset to 0 on all of these. We're going to create both images real quick so I can just show you detail versus non-detail. So here is our carving, modeling. This one's going to take a lot longer, toolpath preview. Okay, this first one is done with an 1/8 of an inch end mill. The second one is done with a 1/16 of an inch end mill. This is our original. So first, we're going to turn off our original. We're then going to turn on our first one, and this is our model. And to see what it looks like, we just reverse it, flip it around. That's the detail that we're going to get in our piece. Now, that detail is okay. It's by all means not bad. But you can see if we zoom in here, see how we lose all the detail and all the leaves and things. And that's just because you're using an 1/8 inch ball end mill. There's not much we can do about that. So what let's do is let's turn off the 1/8, let's turn on the 16th, and let's go ahead and invert that one. Okay, now we're getting a lot more detail down in here. As you can see, it's cut quite a bit better. If we look down in here, also we're going to see much better detail in the cabinet itself as compared to, of course. Go back over. There we go. From this. Do this. So there's quite a bit more detail in it. You can see the smoke a whole lot better. However, let's look at the time that we're going to be spending on it, because that's also going to be another big thing to look at when you're doing these litho paints, is how much time. If we go to our time thing here, you're looking at 1 hour and 35 for the 1/8 inch and 3 hours and 12 minutes for the 16. Any questions on litho paints while we're doing litho paints? Okay, looks like no questions, so we're going to go ask me just what program am I using, I'm using Aspire. Spectacular program. So if you want to, look up at the program a little bit more detail, we have to set up a little time where I can just have you jump on my computer and we'll do a little bit of work with it. But you'll love it. Aspire's a great program. Enjoy it thoroughly. The next important thing that we want to look at today is STL files. Now we all know that we can buy just 3D files ready to go for VectorArt 3D. In VectorArt 3D, they come in as what's called a V3M folder. As a V3M, of course, we can bring them directly into Aspire, like we've done in the past. Right click, drag, and drop. However, there are a lot of other great modeling sources for models out there. One is Carver 3D. Carver 3D is a great website. This comes from a gentleman out of Lithuania. He's even revamped his website, so I'm pretty impressed, and I do like all of his work. However, when we go to buy something, like say this one here, we're going to see that it doesn't come in a V3M format. And so when we go to buy this, we actually have to buy it in what's called an STL format. It also comes in RLF format in case you're using ArtCam Express, in which case you can use these. But what we're going to worry about today is taking it from that, and from that STL format, bringing it into Aspire. While I'm opening up this, Claire Valley asked, where is the material available for litho painting and lithographs? Solid surface countertop places around will have scrap, of course. We also bought it from just Staron. If you go to staron.com, staron.com, you'll find it there as well. These are all the different formats in which you can bring in 3D files. There are, of course, the Aspire files, the 3D clip files, the STL files, which are what we're going to be using, the V3Ms, which is what we're already using, Rhinos, 3DMs, Skips, which are SketchUp files. They also have some really good stuff with SketchUp. We're going to show you in a couple of classes. But what we're going to use is just the regular STL files. So this is a file in for import. Now, if we bring this in, it looks quite a bit different than when I usually bring things in. It comes to this screen here, and this screen is essentially an intermediary screen. This is where you get to tell it what you want to do to it before you actually bring it in. So in this one's case, let's say we want to scale it to 6 inches. You can scale, it'll scale in the X and the Y, and also in the Z will apply it. We're happy. Now you also have something here, which is this plane right here, this dark blue. I'm going to call it a dark blue. And I want you to think of it as like a tub full of bath water. And you can see anywhere that the dark blue shows through will be deleted away. Anything that's still the light blue will come in the model. So for instance, if we brought this model in right like this, we would lose all of this down here at the bottom. We'd lose the whole cross. We'd have a little dot right there. This is important when we're doing unwrapping things and stuff like that, and the unwrapping and stuff we'll do shortly. But this is very important in that when you bring this thing in and you discard everything below that zero plane, this is the zero plane. So we're going to go to the bottom of this one. I want all the way down. And I want to go ahead and just say, there's my piece all brought in, which is ready to cut. So instead of just being able to do like this, grab a piece here and just drop it over into my 2D view like so, I don't get that ability. I have to bring it in through this button here, which is the import model, which you can also do here. It's an import as well. So importing is very important, and depending on what you import, it's going to affect how you import it. So it's an STL, it's UK, IGUS file, 3D, EXF, all these other formats you're bringing in. is important to understand why to bake. But what I want you to really see in this whole baking thing is what it does to your detail. We're going to try to find a few different ones. There's a good detail one right there. Okay. So we're going to take these 3 models, we're going to bake them all together. And what we're going to look at is what it does, the detail in each model as we bake them. Now, if anybody's baked bread, you know that once you've baked bread, you can't turn it back into flour, yeast, water, and whatever else you put into it, right? It's the same thing with this button right here, which is called bake. Now, there are advantages to baking and there are disadvantages to baking. These are things you'll have to just decide for yourself on what you like or dislike. For me, for the most part, I won't bake, but by baking a model, it actually compresses the size of the entire drawing. It makes it easier to email. The problem is, when I receive the email, I cannot unbake the pieces, bring them back into separate models. So there are, again, pros and cons of everything. We're going to go to our 2D, 3D view like we see here. We're going to select these all, and go to bake. Okay. Now once we started baking that, we're going to see right away that we're going to get a little bit more deep. Some of our details are going to start to go away right in here, whereas before it was smoother. It actually decreases the number of pixels in there, which are then going to change, you know, the way that these are going to be machined. They won't be as clean. If you're using an 1/8 of an inch end mill, no problem. But if you're using something like a 32nd of an inch end mill, that's what the problem is. So for the most part, it's really okay to do, but for me, again, I'm now stuck with these as one image. If I move anything, I move all of them. If I resize one, I resize them all. And so for me, I like to keep them unbaked, raw, for lack of a better way to put it. The good news is, if you accidentally bake something and you find out that you don't want to bake it, as long as you have not saved it, you can go to your Control Z. And there are our 3 components again. We can undo until we get back to our 3 components. You can only undo a certain amount of time, so enough moves ahead means you will never be able to undo it. So again, only bake when you want to. Baking, really, there's not much to it, and for the most part, don't do it. You can always zip your file and email it to me. Makes me a lot happier anyway, and I can play with it better. Now the last tool that I want to show you today is this embossing tool. Embossing is a great tool. What it does is it's going to actually reduce the height. Oh yeah, okay, these ones don't work well for it. It reduces the height of the model, but keeps all the detail in the model. So we'll bring in this guy again, because this one does work good for embossing. So you have some nice detail and some nice arcs in here and whatnot. And we're going to go over to our modeling. We're going to go ahead and emboss this. And it's plenty. Now what it does is, notice how flat it is all of a sudden, but it still has all these lines. So it'll actually compress it only as percentages. Right now we're at 10%. Of course I can bring it up. And I can go all the way back up to 50%. Where it used to be. So now it's not near as rounded as it used to be, but you still have all the detail that was there before. You can also go to your smoothness and adjust this as well as that smooth corners. Embossing is really good when, instead of, a lot of times I'll use this instead of sculpting when I'm cleaning up a larger model, and because it's a lot easier to manipulate the smoothness here than it is on says a friend has some STL file with a problem having a square or rectangle part around that in addition to the model. Any idea how to get rid of these special parts? You got them free from the website, and it's offered to me. I don't want this extra square around the model. Daryl, in this one's case, you're going to have to email me a couple of models so I can take a look at them. If you got them from Vector Clip 3D, which is more likely the case, the square around it is always going to be there. The other bad thing about that is, of course, that random stuff, so you don't necessarily. So I recommend sending it to me. Let me take a look at it. I'll get you the answer. Once we're done and happy with the embossed model, we can see that we still have the same height. Everything still looks pretty. It's nice, smooth. button doesn't come up as high as the original because, again, we embossed everything back down in, and it does a really good job of keeping all that detail. So I really like the emboss cutter, or emboss tool. It does a great job for us. Okay, these are as far as we're going to go today. Next time, we're going to go over this tool here, which is called the drafting. Drafting tool is a very specialized tool, so it may not be as widely used as some of the other cutters. Then we also use the slicing tool, and then after that, we're going to talk about the gadgets. Now, if you go to your Aspire and you go to gadgets, you're not going to have a lot of these. Circle, resize, flitter, gear maker, spiral, square, round, tangents, and valence. And we're going to talk about those. I spoke with James this morning, and he said get up to everybody and let them play with them and see what they think. So we're going to talk about where to get those now. Jim Priest asked the question, ArtCam Express, which comes with a lot of 3D art, can they be imported into Aspire? The answer is no. No, they can't. They are RLF, they're locked RLF file. In fact, they cannot even be imported into ArtCam Pro here specifically, only for ArtCam Express. Well, and that's how you create the layer outline. I think what you're asking for. Bringing it on. I create effective boundaries right here. Just create that boundaries. That vector outline is going to be what you use to that one, if you really want to see it, is to draw the modeling plane. Click on this right here. That gives me the modeling plane. That gives me the thickness of my material, so it can't be any more or any less than that. And of course, you can turn that off, and then the next time you open this, it'll stay open now, but I'm already in it. But you don't have to. Asks, why do you use the resize? Do you not use the resize tool instead of the bevel tool? Resize tool in the third row. You're talking about this tool right here? I know. Okay. So the difference between resize and emboss, let's show you. I'm going to bring in two pieces. Bring in this one here. I copy it across. Bring the other one down here. So the first one will emboss. Okay. So embossed. The second one will resize. That was only 50%. There's a little bit of difference in what you're seeing here, depending on what it is you're doing. Resize just resizes the Z height. I never actually use the resize. I usually just resize it here. Because then I have everything else that I can also do all at the same time, but you can't. I couldn't use that resize. And it depends on what it is you're wanting to do, to depend on which is going to be more important. The lithopane, you mentioned corian. Thought you used lithopane on some clay material and acrylic. Can you explain? Yes, you can. It does not look as good, but you can. You can use lithopainting on any material. It will just look lots better on a white or a very light clear corian. Randy Gilly said he sent me an email of 100 of these models that he made for a church. That's great. I'll love to see the pictures. Where do I buy my lithopaint material? I usually buy my lithophane material from cabinet, like solid surface countertop people who are around. You can also buy it directly from Staron. You can also find it on eBay or Amazon as well. Lots of places to buy it. Just if you Google, literally just Google corian resellers, you'll find tons of them. If you live close to Connecticut, you can get a lot of scrap corian. So if you live close, give me a call. I'll get you in touch with a good friend who has quite a bit of it.